Have you ever had a thought so dark, so terrible, that the moment it crossed your mind you tried to push it away? A flash of violence, a whisper of cruelty, the kind of thought that makes you wonder, even for just a second, if you're a good person at all. We all have them. Those intrusive thoughts that slither through our consciousness uninvited. And we tell ourselves they don't mean anything. They're just thoughts. Just noise in the machinery of our minds. But what if they weren't just thoughts? What if someone was listening? It started on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day. Gray sky, cold coffee, the usual numbness of routine. A 34-year-old insurance analyst. Studio apartment. Microwave dinners. Life had calcified into something barely recognizable as living. That morning, stuck in traffic, there was a silver BMW, cut right across 3 lanes without signaling. The driver's suit, phone, oblivious and entitled. And the thought came, just a flash. I hope you crash. I hope your airbag doesn't deploy. The thought came and went in less than a second, replaced immediately by guilt, by the rational voice that said, no, I don't really mean that. 4 miles ahead, the BMW's front tire exploded at 70 miles an hour. The car flipped 3 times. The airbag malfunctioned. The driver died on impact. The connection didn't form immediately. Not until the evening news. Not until the reporter mentioned the location, the exact time, the silver BMW, and even then coincidence. Just coincidence. The universe is full of them, but the universe wasn't finished yet. At work the next day, there was a supervisor. You know the type. Hovering, coffee breath, condescending smile. The kind of person who finds joy in small cruelties, in making others feel small. And as she leaned over the desk, so close, her perfume was suffocating something floral and cloying, the thought arrived unbidden. I wish you'd just choke on something and leave me alone. Push it away. Smile politely. Nod at her corrections. She walked away with her coffee cup. 20 minutes later, the screaming started. Break room. Piece of bagel. Lodged in her throat. By the time anyone realized it wasn't a joke, it was too late. The Heimlich maneuver failed. She collapsed, face purple, eyes bulging with terror. Someone called 911, but standing there in the doorway, watching the scene unfold, there was this cold dread spreading. This horrible knowing that she was already gone. 2 in one day. 2 thoughts, 2 deaths. The drive home happened in silence. Shaking hands on the steering wheel. Sitting in the dark apartment, trying to rationalize it. Coincidence? Had to be. The human brain is wired to find patterns, to see connections where none exist. Apophenia, confirmation bias, but something had changed. Some membrane between thought and reality had grown dangerously thin. The test came the next day, a small thing, a potted plant in the apartment lobby, half dead already. Brown leaves curling. The thought came deliberately this time. I wish that plant would die. Not spoken aloud, just thought, held in the mind for 3 full seconds, then released. By evening, the plant was completely withered, black, desiccated, dead. The fear that arrived then was primal. Because if the small thoughts manifested, what about the others? The darker ones? The thoughts that come at 3 in the morning when sleep won't arrive? The violent fantasies, the cruel impulses, the twisted scenarios that play out before you can stop them? For 3 days, there was an attempt not to think. Meditation, television, music, anything to keep the mind blank. But you can't not think. The harder you try to suppress a thought, the more it insists on being heard. Tell yourself, don't think about a white bear. And suddenly white bears are all you can see. On the 4th day, on the subway home, there was a teenager. Eating chips, scattering crumbs everywhere, feet up on the seat, and the thought came, I wish someone would teach you a lesson. I wish someone would hurt you. Eyes squeezed shut. No. No. I don't mean that. I don't want that. But the thought had already escaped. The teenager got off at the next stop. Through the window. Walking down the platform. Then 3 men appeared from behind a pillar. What happened next was brutal and quick. Looking away didn't help. The sounds were still there. The impact. Vomit on the subway floor. That night brought no sleep. Only research. Desperate queries typed into search engines. Manifestation. Thoughts becoming reality. The law of attraction. But this wasn't positive thinking nonsense. This was something else. Something ancient and wrong. Obscure forum posts. Conspiracy theories. Scattered references in occult texts. The unspoken bargain. The listener. Something that grants wishes, but only the ones kept secret. Only the thoughts you're ashamed of. The desires you'd never voice. Why? What cruel god or demon would design such a thing? Then, buried in a digitized grimoire from the 17th century, a single paragraph. The listener feeds on shame, on the gap between what we are and what we pretend to be. Every dark thought granted makes that gap wider, makes us more monstrous, until there's nothing left but the darkness. It wasn't a gift. The attempts to be good started immediately. Volunteering at a soup kitchen, donations to charity, smiling at strangers. But the intrusive thoughts didn't stop. They never stop. Someone bumps into you on the street and the thought flashes. I hope you trip and crack your skull. An old woman counting. Change slowly at a checkout line. I wish you'd just die already. And they did. All of them. The thoughts that should have stayed buried became reality with horrifying consistency. The guilt was crushing. Dozens dead. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? Sometimes the thoughts came without guilt at all. Sometimes, in that first split second before conscience kicked in, there was satisfaction, even pleasure. The listener was succeeding. There seemed only one way to stop it. If unspoken thoughts manifested, then thinking needed to stop. Permanently. Bathtub filled. Razor blades found. Sitting on cold tile, searching for courage. But even holding the blade to skin, the thoughts came. Intrusive. Unwanted. Images of everyone ever loved suffering. A mother. A sister. The barista who always remembered the order. I wish they'd all. The thought couldn't even finish. But the listener had heard enough. The phone rang. A sister's voice. Strange and distant. Something's wrong. Mom just collapsed. And I feel dizzy. I feel... The line went dead. The razor clattered to the floor. Running from the apartment. No shoes. Sprinting down the street toward a mother's house 12 blocks away. Feet bleeding on concrete. Lungs burning. Both women on the kitchen floor. Unconscious. Barely breathing. The 911 call. The begging. The screaming, but knowing. Knowing this was caused by thoughts. The ambulance arrived. The paramedics worked. And by some miracle, both women survived. Carbon monoxide leak, they said. From a faulty heater. Lucky the timing worked out. But there was no luck involved. The listener doesn't deal in mercy. That's when the real horror became clear. The mind would flood with thoughts about everyone else. Everyone cared about. The listener would take them first. It was the perfect prison. The perfect punishment. So life continues. Far away from everyone known. Name changed. A job where no one is seen. No one is spoken to. Hours of meditation, keeping the mind as blank as possible. But it's not perfect. Avent an offer, and avent impossible. It can never be perfect. Sometimes, late at night, the thoughts still slip through. They slip through defenses like water, through cracks. Dark thoughts about strangers passing on the street, about politicians on television, about the couple arguing in the apartment next door. And somewhere, something listens, something waits, something feeds on the gap between what we pretend to be and what we're becoming. The truth is, we all have these thoughts, these dark impulses, these flashes of cruelty and violence that we immediately disown. We tell ourselves, they don't count. They're not really us. Sighed. They're just thoughts. But what if someone's listening to yours too? How long until the listener finds you? And when it does, what will your thoughts reveal about who you really are? The next time an intrusive thought crosses your mind, that flash of violence, that whisper of cruelty, pay attention. Because thoughts don't just disappear into nothing. They go somewhere, and something might be listening, something hungry, something patient. So be careful what you think. Because some wishes come true whether you want them to or not. And the listener is always, always listening. Sweet dreams.